Hello again, I'm Ryan Panzer, and I am the author of Grace and Gigabytes, Being Church in a Tech-Shaped Culture. In this video, we are going to be talking about Section 3 of the book. Section 3 focuses on the digital age value of collaboration. Now, the reason the digital age, in part, is so set on collaboration is that all of our most utilized digital tools have at their core a collaborative architecture. That's a fancy way of saying all the things we use online, all the things we use on our computers bring us together so that we can do meaningful work with others. From Slack and Google Docs to Zoom and to Microsoft Teams, all of these resources bring people together asynchronously and synchronously, analog or virtually, to work on some kind of a shared mission, vision, or purpose. Now, church has always been a collaborative movement. That's the reason why when we think about liturgy, we think of the work not of the pastors, but of the people. But a few things I want to address about collaboration. First of all, in this time of physical distancing and digital distribution, there have been a lot of ways where the church has actually become less collaborative. You know, when we look at streaming a worship service on Facebook or streaming a worship service on YouTube, there's actually fewer opportunities to collaborate than if we were, say, all together in the same sanctuary. So that creates a little bit of a paradox. Collaboration is this digital age value, something that all of us in this tech-shaped culture want more of, and yet it seems like so many of our experiences of digital church don't necessarily support the experience of collaboration. They support the experience of a produced and professionalized version of the worship being broadcast to lots of people. So what exactly can we do with that? Well, I think first of all, this starts with an understanding that collaboration has a lot of different dimensions to it. We can talk about collaboration at the level of the congregation, where our congregation, the laity of the congregation, collaborates with the pastors and the worship leaders in creating an experience of worship. We can talk about collaboration in the experience of learning and faith formation, that the way we learn and the way we develop in our faith is through collaborative construction with others by creating and discussing and debating. Or we can talk about collaboration as something that happens across congregations, that part of being a Christian community in a digital age is no longer about being just a bounded entity that has its bylaws and its constitution and its charter documents, but is instead contributing to a broad Christian movement, and that as part of that we ought to team up with other churches whenever it makes sense, and hopefully as often as we possibly can. Now, collaboration can take a lot of forms. Just to name a few of the ways that this manifests within the book, I talk a lot about collaboration as fundamental to the learning experience. And I contrast experiences that I've had going through confirmation and other typical types of Lutheran church education to the way it's been shown that people actually learn in the digital age. You know, we don't really want to be lectured to in these dates and times. Instead, what we want is to gather in a community of learners around a particular topic. That means our job as pastors and as church leaders isn't to communicate or broadcast one-way information, but to convene conversations around a common topic. In this case, that topic is our shared faith, or the work of God in the church and the work of God in the world. One of my favorite philosophers is a thinker named Parker Palmer. He's written a lot about this idea that education has recently shifted from this hierarchical model where information starts with an expert who presents the information to independent amateurs who then learn from the expert, towards more of a networked model, where it looks like the structure where ideas are freely exchanged across all members of the community. Palmer calls that the community of truth model. I think that's such an important concept for our Christian education efforts. Well, we might want to stand up and deliver a 30-minute lecture on the book of Job, the real opportunity with Christian education is to create experiences where people can come together to co-create. Now, I also talk a little bit about collaboration in the context of leadership and the importance of adopting a shared leadership model at the congregational level. Bringing back opportunities to have pathways to involvement, whether they're through committees or board leadership or council leadership, all of those are useful. But everyone who walks through the door, whether it's a physical or an analog door or a virtual door, should know how they can get involved and share their gifts with the rest of the community. So collaboration, again, it emanates out of the Google Docs and the Zooms and the Slacks and all of these things that we use online. It's foundational to the way we learn. It's foundational to the way effective organizations are led. The challenge for us as church leaders is to adopt this value more consistently in our curriculum and our leadership processes. But I want to go back to that challenge of worship for a second, because in the pandemic, in this time of digital distribution, a lot of our worship experiences have become less collaborative. So what can we do with that? Well, I want to encourage us to think about how we can open up more worship opportunities for those who are not joined with us in the sanctuary, but are watching on the other side of the screen. Can we create ways for them to submit prayer requests that can be read aloud in the sanctuary? Can we create mechanisms by which they'll read the lessons and serve as virtual lectors? How can we implement more recorded music so that the contributions of musical artists that can't be present Sunday morning at 9 a.m. can be folded into the service experience? Collaboration is every bit as much about working together as it is building the bridge between the offline and the online. And as we come out of this time of pandemic and this time of digital distribution, the opportunity, now that we're back in person and our sanctuaries have opened to an extent, is to create opportunities for those who aren't sitting in the pews to still have an active leadership experience in the worship. In the next video, we're going to talk about creativity. The fourth value of the digital age comes from YouTube and the Instagram generation and what it means in the church.